Was it season 6 that had the Battle of the Bastards?
No, that was season 7.
That was season 7.
No, was that
That was,
I thought it
7?
was.
I think it's
Let's see.
6.
I think it's 6 too.
I think it's 6. Because
that
7.
was still because they'd moved past the books
Yeah.
and they were still doing a pretty good job.
Yeah,
Yep,
some of
it
it
is.
some of it had moved past the books, and then some of it
It's
hadn't.
6. Yeah, that's the penultimate episode of season 6.
Yeah,
Because season 7 was the stupid teleporting across Westeros
Yep.
and the dragon getting
the
killed.
ice dragon.
And you're like, that was a horrible finale.
Yeah, I remember that episode got leaked like a week before it came out, so I was like
Yes,
watching it.
Yeah. No, it was three of them.
Yeah.
It wasn't just that episode. It was like 3 episodes got leaked, like the week before it was supposed to air, and then like 2 or 3 weeks before the next 2, right? Because they all got leaked at the same time.
Yep. Joseph,
Yeah, everybody watched them.
will you check to see if the live sounds okay?
Yeah, it does.
It does. Okay, cool. I had it up, but for some reason it. Okay, cool. Sounds good.
And there were mistakes made in Battle of the Bastards, like just the army just showing up, Deus Ex Machina, but the battle was fantastic.
Rickon running in a straight line and just easily getting because it's I don't even know if
John
I should,
getting buried.
yeah.
But it worked. It
across the
worked
pile of
narratively.
corpses.
Right?
You're
there were
right.
mistakes, but it worked. Getting Jon Snow just infuriated and baiting him out. It worked narratively.
Yeah, I just wish they had.
And it was not the Long Night. It was not.
No, that's fair enough. Same action director, I believe, though. I think the guy who he's actually been involved in House of the Dragon. I think he's actually just like learned some stuff because
I
sorry,
I think what happened is I think a lot of his stuff got changed in the edit for the
fair enough.
the Pitch Black episode.
I can see that.
They changed all the gamma levels and like
it's pretty bad. And there's
otherwise why would the Dothraki be alive in the next episode? Right? Like,
yeah, they immediately respawn.
I can't imagine that was filmed intentionally, and then they're just like, oh, oops, we forgot. I think that they were.
Yeah, there was
a lot of
there were a lot of mistakes going on, especially in that final season. And I
a lot of reshoots.
There's one specific scene in oh, sorry, the YouTube's telling me I'm not getting enough video to maintain smooth streaming, which is ridiculous. I have fiber. This should never be a problem.
Yeah.
Right.
What were we talking about? There's a scene at the end of this episode that that does that, where it's for dramatic effect more than like the realism of what I say realism, quote unquote, of what really would have happened. I won't get to it yet, but like there's some times where you're like, and I wonder, I was thinking about this, like I never want to get to the point where I completely lose that suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, this is just so unbelievable. But it's like, well, there's a creative reason behind why they did it. So you have to balance a lot of that out. Where it's like, I don't really know if it would have worked quite that way. But at the same time, you go, well, nah, it works. I mean, like, I don't know if they have other options or whatever the case may be. And for the most part, like, I think House of the Dragon really balances that out.
With the exception of the one episode in season 1, yeah.
What 8 or 9? Was it 9?
9
with
9
with Rhaenys. Yeah. Dude, I saw a thread on Twitter today where people were like praising her and being like, "Oh, perfect character!" Like, they wrote her perfectly.
She is a perfect character if you take out 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Of her screen time.
All they had to
take
do
out 30 seconds, she's consistent.
Mm-hmm. And the way you fix it, right? And we'll probably talk about it again when we get to that point. All you do.
Yeah, we're spoiling. This is a good conversation.
Yeah. All you do for that episode in the first season is have her think about doing that and decide to run away. And so she makes the decision to run away instead of like face down what will become her enemies. And it's like a decent little setup, and then she flies away, and then that leads into the culmination of like the end of her story in this episode. So
because her choice to not kill them is consistent with this episode. It's her, hey, I'm gonna do it this time.
Right.
But it was her choice to murder half of King's Landing and then not finish the job. That's what's not consistent.
And it's like she's always talking about like she always is taking, for lack of a better way of putting it, like the feminist side of like Westerosi culture, or like in their like thing. And so she, it's like, oh, the men are always trying to do this, blah blah blah. And it's like, lady, you murdered tons of women and wives.
Yeah.
And mothers, you know what I mean? Like they're because I rewatched season 1 right before we started doing this season, and it's just like there's just no justification for it. Like
it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah,
it's so good. It's just a perfect TV show, and then
yeah, and it is a pain. I'm thankful. Like after today's episode, we won't really have to talk about it anymore. Like that thread is done.
Because she's gone.
Yeah, like it at least solves that problem. And then Joseph and I have been talking a lot about how Kristen Cole has, I think, recovered really well from some of the weird treatment that they had for him in the first season. With like,
he's been really good in this season.
He has.
Yeah.
He's moved up my list quite a bit. Joseph, we were
got
talking.
some good.
Huh?
He got some good character development in this last episode as well.
Yep.
Moving on from just it kind of like showing him as a competent commander.
Yeah.
Oh, we're already live. Okay, that's why.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, it's like, why are we talking about this? Let's start the show.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we don't have one of them fancy intros like you do.
Oh yeah, sorry, dude.
Technically next time.
Yeah. We just go.
Okay.
I'll work on that. We're not, to be honest, we're not used to having guests. we've been terrible about it this year.
Well, I had the video pulled up, but I'd opened another screen and I didn't. So
Oh man.
But anyway,
right.
Yeah, him being a competent commander I really just enjoy his character arc this season, and him really being a superb villain for the series, as far as like out on the socials, how everybody is really disliking him, and I'm like, man, I dislike him, but I like him at the same time too.
Oh yeah, he is. It's not quite a Joffrey, right? Like you hate him.
No, not at all.
but you love his character. I think he's more like a. What was it? Was it Ramsay Bolton?
Maybe a little closer to Ramsay. I would say he's not even.
If you take out like the ending,
the
of
flaying. He's kind of a mix. It feels like there's a little bit of Jamie in him.
Yeah.
Because he is a competent fighter. He's not very politically savvy.
Right.
I think he's the perfect example of how you write sympathetic villains.
I could see that,
because you don't feel bad for him, but you understand him.
Yeah. And
right. And too often Hollywood tries to write sympathetic villains and make them the good guys.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, okay, but they're bad.
Yeah, like he's not
like you're really, really pushing this a lot harder than you need to. Like you should be able to understand a character's motivations and still disagree with them.
Oh, for
yeah,
sure,
exactly.
For sure.
And that's what Kristen Cole is like. Yeah, like I get him, and I hate him.
Uh-huh. And you need
great.
that, and it's Game of Thrones. Like there's going to be lots of characters like that.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's kind of surprising to me that, and I don't know if people are just like overlooking certain things when they're talking about the show. Most of this is just like Twitter noise or whatever. But you're just like, guys, like some of these characters are like, they're not good people, right?
Right.
One of the things that because I always watch those little like interview things after the show. And it's one of the brighter things that they've said about like Daemon, that he's both hero and villain. It's almost like a switch that he has. He has these like moments of heroics, and then he's got these moments of like absolute villainy. And so it's like a really interesting dynamic for his character, which we didn't. We like kind of got in Game of Thrones, but I don't think to the level that we've gotten with him.
Yep, and then Aemon's supposed to be his duplicate almost.
Yeah.
His
on
the other side.
Who we'll get to, because he has skyrocketed quite a bit. And I don't remember if you remember a conversation from 2 weeks ago, but I'm starting to lean more on the side of like, okay, they're starting to do some stuff with him. It's been a slow drip, like they've really been building and they've been trying to put a lot of work in. And then like him at the end of this episode, and no, it's not just the end of the episode. Now that I think about it, it's also a lot of the stuff that they did with him in the during the first council meeting that they had in the episode.
Yes, technically, have you read the books?
I did.
You did? Okay, yeah, we haven't.
I have not read A Song of Fire, Song of Fire and Ice, Song of Ice and Fire. I have not read A Song of Ice and Fire. I just barely read Fire and Blood before season 2. So I rewatched season 1, and then I read the book, and yeah,
well,
I'm ready.
Nice.
The nice thing is, from what I've been hearing, is that since Fire and Blood is a bit unreliable from its narration, you kind of don't know what you're getting in this. Like you might get accurate portrayals, and then some of the stuff might change completely.
Yeah. Before I get into that, I just quickly wanted to remark on one more thing about the villains is the comparison between Kristen Cole and Daemon. It's their performance, right. Like the reason you still enjoy watching Kristen Cole is because he's acting it so well. And so you hate his character, but you love the performance. And Daemon's character, you love the performance, and he's also a villain. Like he's not a good guy, but you can't help but love him because he's just so likable.
Yeah.
Right? Like his performance is just oozes that charisma, right? And with season 2 more and more, like I'm starting like Kristen Cole is starting to win me over too, even though he's just the worst.
Well, I think with Daemon, it's a lot of it is due to you have these like really almost as extremes. You have these really horrible aspects about his character, but then you have these really honorable aspects of his character, like how he sticks up for his family, for example.
Well, he's the realist, right? So he's the loose cannon, but he's also like the only one like willing to get things done when they need to get done, right?
Yep.
And
that
I wish
comes across in his communication too, like as we see in the dialogue where he can't really muster an army because he's so pragmatic.
It's like telling
he's just blunt and to the point, but that doesn't endear people to and win them over to come to join his side.
Yep.
That was the one thing that bothered me in season 2 with the conversation between Daemon and Rhaenyra when she was berating him. You're like, oh, a child died. I really wanted him to get a zinger at the end where he says, yes, a child died, and many more are going to die. This is war. Like he won't be the first child.
Yeah. Yeah. He's
because like you know that's what his character thinks, but I just wanted him to say it.
Well, yeah, that's a good idea because it's kind of like with I know that we're not gonna. I don't think we're gonna spend any time talking about it. You can correct me if I'm wrong, David. But last week's episode, and there's a bit of a carry over to this week as far as with execution, but the Alicent and Rhaenyra scene, and to me,
that was added in the book. It was not in the books.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with it. I just think the timing is like you talk about with Daemon saying, "Yeah, a kid died, and many more are going to die because it's war." The same thing with Alicent and Rhaenyra. It would have been more interesting if the scene happened like a bit later on in the season, because I kind of pictured for me that they would have a reunion, but it would be more so towards the end when there's been too much horror that's happened to be able for them to rekindle the friendship they had. And so if the meeting happens late in this season, you get this build up to compound the tragedy of everything that's happened in between. And but versus kind of how
there been enough tragedy between them already though? Like I like what you're saying, but I feel like that's exactly what we got. Like they've both killed each other's children.
Yeah.
and they're like,
Yeah,
okay,
and
like, are
she
we really gonna do this? Are we gonna keep doing this? And like, I feel like that's exactly what we got. She was like, this is the last lifeline, and is there any way to find peace? And Allison is like, it's too late. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
yeah. I guess
Even though I realized I'm wrong, we're already committed.
I guess it's just the execution of that scene, how it happened,
Yep.
and more so than I guess the timing.
There are going to be more reunions in the future. Like, it's not
I'm
the
not
last time these characters talk.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm not. I wouldn't be surprised to see. I mean, because they're
yeah.
they're gonna keep.
I'm not surprised about that. I'm just more so like the plan that the writers came up with to have her meet with Allison and everything was really dumb. I kind of thought it should have been more so like how
you're
It
right.
felt like it felt like it was done really quickly.
Well, here's the thing. You're right. It was dumb, and everyone like that. That's on purpose. Her entire small council literally looks at her like, "What you did? Sorry, you did what?"
I don't think Allison would have at that point realistically just let her go without.
I do.
I don't know. I just don't see it.
Allison's a massive pushover. It's a like core part of her character. Like she wants to be strong, she wants to be pragmatic, but like she has no power. She has like zero ability to like stick up for, and because by the point that they meet, like too, she has like zero morals. Like she's like a completely broken character.
Done.
Yeah,
she's
like there's
completely done.
like and it gets compounded even more in this episode with the T, which is like a primary character in the show at this point.
Well, it completely mirrors season 1 of the whole reason they started their falling out is because how dare Rhaenyra lie to me and have an abortion,
bro. Kristen Cole. It's like it's crazy too because it's the same room. It's like Rhaenyra's old room. Like there's all of these these very obvious callbacks to the first season. I mean, like that's on purpose, but I think that it's meant to come off as stupid because I don't
and it's addressed in this next episode too. Like they're like, hey, where'd you go? And I liked that they showed that a lot of time had passed. She'd been gone for a long time, and they're just twiddling their thumbs. Like I was worried because it happened so fast in episode 3 that like, oh no, this is just becoming Game of Thrones season 8. This is just becoming the Wheel of Time season 2, right? Like, we're doing more teleporting, but then it wasn't.
Yeah, she's gone for like half the episode.
I was very pleased with that.
Yeah.
And everyone called her stupid too. They're like, what are you doing? You're like, look, I needed to make sure. But now we're doing it. Now we're in it. And now the Dance of Dragons has begun, and it's been pretty great. You wanted to talk about the unreliable narrators, and I completely derailed the conversation.
Oh no, you're good. It's more of just like a reminder to book readers that part of the history is considered unreliable at this point, and that the show is the like definitive.
Still surprises, right? Even if you've read the book, you know where the show's going. You don't know how it's going to get there because how the book is structured, it's written. So it's someone compiling 4 different versions of the same story.
Right.
So there are 4 maesters who've recorded the events, and someone has taken all of their records and put them all together and saying, hey, this is what we know happened. This person says it happened this way. The other person disagrees and says it happened this way, right? And they all have different political motivations, and some of them are just crazy. And so, like, one of them is a crazy court jester who is very sexually active.
Oh no!
so he writes all about the dirty stuff.
Yeah.
And people are like, he's exaggerating here. These characters were hooking up, right? But he says, oh no, the murder happened because they were jealous, the jealous lovers, and that's how it happened. Like, we don't really listen to Mushroom's version of that, right? So a lot of times things will happen and they'll be like, oh, it happened this way, or this is what happened. We don't know why it happened or how it happened, but that's what happened.
Right.
And they're making some changes too in the books. I wouldn't call them changes, but like they're kind of solidifying the story.
Yeah.
Right. This is the definitive version of the text.
All right.
So,
oh, sorry.
yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and go through
like an example
Oh,
of that though.
you're good. Go ahead.
Sorry.
That's all
So
good.
Eric and Eric, right?
Right.
There's like, it's the one of the scholars says, oh, the battle lasted for an entire day, and they just kept fighting, and it was heroic, and and one of them's like, it lasted 2 minutes, right? They immediately got stabbed. They both died, and so there's different versions of that. I think the version that we get in the show is better than the book.
Yeah.
And there are frequently scenes that happen, both season 1 and 2, where you're like, oh, like it's really clever because you can see, oh, these are all the theories, and oftentimes it incorporates multiple. So like the fact that Alicent overheard the prophecy of the Song of Ice and Fire, it's not in the books, right?
Right.
But it explains all of her choices from the books.
Yeah, it gets her.
And it's wonderful.
Her motive, essentially.
Yeah.
Which is really
it explains Rhaenyra's motive, and it explains her motive, and it's not in the books, but it's brilliant. So,
well, I obviously want to keep talking about it. Let's kind of go through the episode, and we can talk about it sort of in the order in which it happens, leading up to.
Right. So we have some kind of structure for this thing.
Well, yeah, right. Well, we try. It doesn't always happen, believe me. I think there are definitely times where Joseph and I have like started talking, and like I barely move like 2 inches, and then we're like, "Well, I guess that's the show, guys. Sorry." But yeah,
it really does happen like that.
So we've been talking about Daemon. How are you guys feeling about him so far this season? Now that we're halfway through, and he's been sort of separated
relegated
from everybody. Yeah, he's on his own little almost not. You could call it a B story. I mean, I guess I'm not trying to do that in like a derogatory way. It's just he's kind of the B story this season.
His performance has been great. He's been disappointing because he's been given nothing to do, and he was just yelled at. And I wish he pushed back a little bit more. Like especially when what's not Rhaenyra, Rhaena? Rhaenys. When Rhaenys is yelling at him, he's like, "You just killed a bunch of people, right?" I needed him to say that,
Yeah.
But I think I know what they're doing with this character with book knowledge, and I think it's going to work out really, really well. If that's where they're planning on ending this season, I think it's a smart choice.
Cool.
If they end his arc in a specific place. I'm trying to be very vague and not spoil anything. but
it can be hard.
I think it's clearly they're intentionally frustrating his character because something's gonna burst, right? Like it's and he's gonna do something, and I think it'll explain some actions that he makes in the books, and I hope that's what they're doing.
Well, so from the way the only thing that I know. They say at the end of the episode that he is sort of in the middle of a coming to terms with his past. Like that's
right,
especially with this episode because you have like this scene with.
You just had him like the last time he talked with his wife. She said, "I can't trust you," right? And so now he's trying to figure out, hey, am I actually resenting her? Do I actually want the throne, or
Yeah, what is it? And then the scene where he thinks it's Aegon. Sorry, Aemon. I always do that. Where he thinks it's Aemon.
It's him dressed up as Aemon.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And that's like just a little bit of a mirror of who Aemon is and like who Aemon has like modeled himself after. And then you see his other wife, and. I think that was it, right? It was just the three of them that show up in this one. It was like three different versions, right? It was both the younger and older versions of his Valerian wife. I can't remember her name, and Rhaenyra and Aemon. Yeah, I don't think they didn't use. They didn't use the actor for Aemon, right? It was all Matt Smith. That I don't know.
Maybe it was for a split second.
Maybe they did. Maybe they did use him. But they whatever they did, it was enough trickery to make me think that it was him for a minute. And
it was all good. It's just him, his psyche kind of dissolving a little bit, and he's gonna have to come to terms with something, or not, and go crazy, right?
Right. And one of the things I do really like about that's a funny. I really like about what they've been doing with Harrenhal is like adding in the actual like magical, haunted, cursed.
A lot of stuff that they pulled out of Game of Thrones.
Yep. Yeah. Like it's not what's going on with Daemon is actually real. It's not just like, oh, someone's just drugging him and that's all it is. It's like, well, the place is actually cursed.
It's like dark magic stuff going on.
Yeah.
He also did get drugged though. So.
Yeah, I was about to say getting drugged too.
True. But like we'll get to Miss Rivers shortly, but
Rivers.
She clearly is doing more, and like you can see it because of like there's a couple things that she says like about the previous maester and some other things that you're like, okay, you're
She says a lot of things, and she 100% spoils the plot. If you pay attention, you might want to go back and listen to everything she says. Not even in the previous episode too. So.
There was definitely some stuff in the previous episode that and from what I've heard of George, he likes to do that with visions.
Oh, he's always spoiling his own story. Like this book is a spoiler for Game of Thrones, right? For A Song of Ice and Fire. Sorry, like it's supposed to mirror that story and spoil things, and he spoils things in Game of Thrones too. He's always having visions and.
Too bad he can't
telling you exactly what's going to happen. You're like, that's not going to happen, and then it happens. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, too bad he can't finish his books.
Yeah,
he's too busy.
Have you seen the rumors that he's done and he's going to announce it at the end of season 2?
No, they say that, dude. They said that when they were like, oh, at the end of season 7, at the end of season 8, at the end of season 1 of House of the Dragon. It's like, guys, I don't know. I don't know what he's doing. He's too busy. Like, it's funny. Joseph and I have been talking a lot just in chats about how he's literally like too sex obsessed to finish his books. Like he keeps giving all these interviews about that, and it's just like, bro, shut up. Like go write, please. Please.
Yeah.
I think the reason why he hasn't finished it, David, is because I think he gave Dan and Dave those notes for season 8, and everybody hated it. And so he didn't know what to do, so that's why it's taken him so long. Is that I think that was going to be his original ending.
Yeah. So,
but even then, I don't even think that works though, because most people aren't disappointed with what happened. They're disappointed at
how it happened,
how it got there, right? Like it makes sense. Yes, he's writing a tragedy. It makes sense that what's her name?
Daenerys.
That Daenerys doesn't have a happy ending, right?
Right.
But,
which I'm of two minds about. I don't think, he was like way ahead of the whole like subverting your expectations when it comes to writing something. The problem is it's just like, oh, she's literally just like the Mad King, and you're like, like that's it.
It could have been really great if you gave us a better reason for her to go mad, right?
And like, I don't know if, because like, I don't know if killing her, it just like it's not satisfying. You know what I mean?
No, it was not. It was not well made.
And I'm not saying in like a happy ending kind of way, but like a lot of the choices that were made early on in the show and in the book, like they're satisfying choices, and you still have to give characters arcs, and those arcs still have to make sense when you conclude them, whether that's alive or dead.
There's a lot of things that they could include from season 8 in the book and just write it better, and it could work.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of things you have to take out. Like I'm 100% sure the Arya killing the king, the Night King. They even said that was their choice, right?
So like, of course it was.
We decided to give it to her because it would be unexpected, and you're like, okay, so you just picked the dumbest things so we wouldn't expect it.
That's like acolyte not like logic in writing your show. Like, it's like, guys, come on.
Oh,
there's
don't
a
get me
million.
started on the acolyte.
I know. There's a million other options that you could have like it, and like Jon Snow is the most obvious because that's been his arc through most
Well, and
of
we
the
know
show.
we know that he was the prince. Well, we don't know if he's the prince's promised. We do know that it was George's intention for him to be who he was, right? A Targaryen bastard. They didn't do anything interesting with that fact, right?
Well, and he's not actually a bastard, right?
Or, oh yeah, you're right. Right, he's not a bastard.
Um,
that was a twist.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I forgot they got married like 2 seconds before it happened. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like a lot
already pregnant though, so isn't that kind of still a bastard?
I don't know.
Does that count? I don't know.
I don't
know.
No, I don't think so.
Growing up?
I think because she's
Just a little shotgun wedding.
She's from a noble house too, and you can legitimize bastards,
right?
In that scenario. So like, yeah, but it's I don't know. The
I
whole
don't know.
like
I get subverting expectations, but to David's point you brought up earlier with Daenerys, it's like eventually it just becomes a tire trope, and sometimes you need to give the audience, you need to allow them to have that payoff too.
Yeah. Catharsis is important.
And like I think I was talking to a friend of the show, Jake, pretty recently, and I told him, I was like, say Jon Snow was the one who defeats the Night King. In the show. So much better. Yeah, but then like, is there something that's like, well, the Night King needs to always exist, so now Jon is, he's like basically forced to return to, the Wall, sort of like they did anyway.
Yeah.
And there's just like, a lot of it's really dumb and isn't satisfying. And then like, is it That's not Wormtongue. That's Harry Potter, isn't it? The Daenerys.
Littlefinger.
No.
Littlefinger.
No. The Unsullied guy. That's
right. It is Worm something.
His name's slipping my mind, but he, he's like all pissed at Jon Snow, and it's like, dude, your leader just committed genocide.
I know.
Like,
the fact that
pay attention, bro.
Like, the fact that he gets banished by the people who lose, and they're not in charge anymore, and then they still have to honor his banishment.
It's so weird, man. It doesn't make sense. He could have just gone back to the north. Like, I think because they secede essentially by the end of the show. Like, the north is basically back to where it was before like Aegon conquered.
It's Grey Worm.
Grey Worm. That's right. It was Wormtongue, Lord of the Rings. My bad. There's a lot of worms and stuff in fantasy stories. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of stuff. We could sit here and talk about season 8 for like forever. But yeah, so Daemon is obviously having all of these visions, and he's still sort of trying to figure out exactly what's going on, and like we were talking about before, he is attempting to raise an army in the Riverlands, and he meets one of the Tullys. Now, this is it Oscar Tully?
Or Elmo, something like that.
It's one of the Sesame Streets. I don't know.
Yeah. And it's just like you guys were saying before, the Daemon, he doesn't have a lot of tact with people, and he's basically like, go strangle your grandfather so we can we can keep this going.
Why don't you go put the pillow over his head and make this faster?
Yeah,
right. This scene made all of the thumb twiddling with Damon's character 100% worth it.
Yeah,
like it was great. And then the other guy comes in and just like pats him on the back.
So there's definitely going to be consequences from this conversation with him. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah,
I don't think this kid is going to take kindly to this conversation if he becomes the Lord eventually.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not exactly sure yet, because he kind of comes away from the conversation just sort of like, what the heck? Like, what was, and the guy's like, don't worry about it. It's
it's just little old Daemon.
There's only one character in this show that I know how they die, and that's only because they talk about it in Game of Thrones.
Well, and that's the thing, is that like, I'm not 100% sure about some of those, some of the history of that stuff either. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out and what they end up doing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, regardless, like we know that a majority of the cast, it does not end well for them. Like that's literally the point of what's
most
going
of
on.
them die.
Yeah.
So.
And then we get. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
No. Oh, I was I was trying to fill the time while you were skimming.
Oh, you're good.
But you were asking, did the conversation about the showrunners, was that while we were live?
Maybe.
Miguel's.
Well,
we were talking
gone,
about
right?
the battle of the bastards.
Yes.
Stuff.
Yeah. So one of the directors.
Yeah.
Who did that episode? He's been involved.
So that's Miguel Sapotnik.
Is it?
He was involved. He was involved in season 1. But he's gone.
This guy, it's somebody else then, because this guy, he in the House the Dragons Built, their like little docuseries about the show. The guy, it's a different guy, and he specifically did like the action directing for, I think The Long Night, Battle of the Bastards, and then I think the one from season 5 as well.
Yeah, I don't know what the other credits are. Yeah, but
I'd have to go back and look.
Miguel Sapotnik directed The Long Night and the Battle of the Bastards.
Okay.
And he was involved in season 1 and then stepped down, and we got the good one.
Yeah, we got the good. We got the good.
The good one stayed.
Yeah, because he likes to make it ultra realistic when he shoots night. Episodes at night to make it to where it's completely black and you can't see.
Yeah, that whole thing.
Condal, right? Is it Ryan Condal?
Ryan
Is the other
Condal.
guy?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Condal.
But the that whole thing with the shooting it through like a potato or whatever was really weird. And they were talking about how it's like our Helm's Deep or whatever, and yeah, Helm's Deep is dark, but like they understood they understood lighting.
They gotta stop comparing everything.
Oh, dude, I know.
You can have a dark scene though. You can have dark scenes if you have contrast.
Yeah, you have to have.
Yep.
Yeah.
Helm's Deep is dark, but you can see everything that's going on.
What was there was a show recently, I think. It wasn't The Acolyte, was it, that invoked Helm's Deep recently? I know something did, and I don't remember what it was.
The Acolyte, every week they compare The Acolyte to a different TV show. Leslie Headland comes out and says, this episode I was trying to be better than Duel of the Fates, and this episode I was trying to be better than Citizen Kane, and this episode what really inspired me was Breaking Bad, and
Kill Bill was an inspiration for the
all
entire
of these
show.
things that are much better than what you're currently watching.
Bro, I was watching I think it was EFAP this weekend, and they were going over one of her most recent interviews, and she legitimately believes that when it talks about Vader getting seduced to the dark side, that seduction is a sexual thing.
Yes. Well, did you watch last week's episode?
I only watch the episodes now through other people, because I think I got to episode 4 and turned it off like 10 minutes in. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah,
I was like, I have to watch it.
My
other
channel
people.
members want me to keep watching.
I'm so sorry. It is. I mean, I hate to
let us know how it ends.
Well, yeah, I'm like
pieced out too. I didn't even finish Ahsoka.
Yeah. Oh, we finished. Did we finish Ahsoka, or did I finish Ahsoka, Joseph?
No, we finished Ahsoka.
We did finish it. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I know it's stupid because it's what we say that a lot of other people do all the time, because it's like, oh, it's the best thing since the last best thing. But I really do think The Acolyte is one. I mean, it's barely watchable.
Yeah.
It's barely watchable.
I will die on the hill that it is the worst Star Wars show. It's worse than Book of Boba Fett, and that's saying something. So
yeah,
I think that you're right. Granted, I haven't seen the Book of Boba Fett, nor do I care to, and I've only seen the first 2 episodes.
It's hysterical.
Of Ahsoka.
The Book of Boba Fett's like one of the best comedies in the last 10 years, bro.
I think I was talking with David that it may Ahsoka may, or excuse me, not Ahsoka, but The Acolyte may be worse than The Rings of Power.
Yeah, we were kind of trying to figure out, because I don't know.
Taking out the Tolkien aspect from it and just viewing it just like this is a show. This is show A. This is show B. now, if the Acolyte may be
quality wise, yeah, I think
quality wise,
I think Rings of Power is more malicious.
Oh, for
yes,
sure.
but
It does more
it
damage.
does more malicious too. Like their entire publicity campaign was about how gay this show is. Like,
and then she tried to roll that back. Like, no, it's not really. And then you're watching it. And
no,
you're
like there's. Have you seen the interview though? She's like, this is the gayest Star Wars. I think R2D2's a lesbian, and he scissors with R2D2.
Yeah,
okay, right.
Yeah, they do not. Yeah, it's bad. It's really, really bad. And they just
anyway. So good shows though. This black guy whose name I don't know.
Alan.
No, the actor. He's in my favorite show, Raised by Wolves, which got canceled, and I'm very upset about it. So
that sucks.
Well,
Must be
it's the best sci-fi I've ever seen on TV.
Oh, that's crazy.
And he's fantastic. He's a great actor. But yeah.
And so we get this scene with Rhaenys, which, to be honest, when I first read this, I was like getting creepy vibes from her because she's like touching his face, and she's like, "Oh, you're so like beautiful," you know, and you're like, "Lady, what are you doing?" And then after I was like, "Oh wait, no, I know what's going on here."
Yeah.
And so obviously this is Alan is Corlys's bastard.
Yeah, it pretty explicitly, without saying it, implied it.
Yep.
With every other word they could use.
Which, again, to their credit, is something that most other shows cannot handle.
Yeah, no, the dialogue is very subtle, and sometimes it's not even dialogue; it's just visual storytelling. You're like, oh, okay, I get what's going on.
Yeah, the way that characters look at each other, or sometimes dragons, you get like a whole.
The dragons on the show have more emotion than any character on the Acolyte, besides Squid Game. Squid Game's doing great.
So yeah, they have their little scene, and then Corlys and Rhaenys have a conversation about, he can be lifted up essentially, these are the moments with Rhaenys, like, so barring that we were talking about earlier, that 30 seconds in episode 9 of the first season, she is interesting in a lot of the things that she says.
Exactly. If you just erase 30 seconds of her character, she's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love her character.
I think
I love how it's heavily implied here that Alan is Corlys's bastard son.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reason for this conversation too, even though she doesn't know she's going to die today, I think it's pretty clear she knows someone's going to die, right? Like, we've just made the choice. We're going to war, and write your will before you do,
And
and this conversation is going to be very, very important too for the future of the story. So.
And she I think she gives Rhaenyra some bad advice, and I'm still kind of, this is one of those things I'm waiting for, like, the season to play out and to see where a couple things go. It's what makes her kind of a complicated character, because there's moments where you're like, oh yeah, she's like spot on with this, and then there's other moments where it's like, lady, like, I don't know.
Yeah, good characters can be wrong.
Yeah. Agreed.
If they're consistent, which is why her character sucks, because she wasn't consistent in the most important moment of the show.
Yeah. And it's because they just wanted a spectacle. They wanted a cool moment at the end of episode 9, and they gave the spectacle away.
Miguel Sapochnik wanted to have a big, we can't end the episode without something big. And it completely undermines the entire story.
Yeah, like he's 6 years old, and he's like, and the dragon, it needs to bust out of the pit, and and then
especially after episode 2 of this season, where they're taking the kid's murder and using it as a political football.
Right.
They're parading him in front of the streets.
Why
and
didn't
they
you do
don't
that
even
before?
mention. Oh, hey. Also, remember that whole. Remember 9/11, right? Like.
Yeah, and they're gonna parade.
I think that was a little bit worse than one kid dying.
Yeah, they're gonna do that again in the next episode. It's in the trailer for the next episode. We won't get to it yet because.
Well, yeah, they're gonna definitely use the king. So.
Oh, not just the king. Did you see the other part?
The dragon.
Uh-huh.
Well, the head of the dragon, of Rhaenys' dragon.
So yeah, that's pretty much all. I don't really know if there's anything else to specifically say about that scene.
No, other than it's really important for the plot.
We get a little foreshadowing here.
Yeah, great. I didn't even realize that until afterwards. It's like, oh yeah, wait, she broke off the wing, and then that's what happened to the dragon, and
it's just a nice little touch, you know.
It's unnecessary, but it adds a lot.
Yep. I'll keep saying this. It's like everyone else in this industry could learn some lessons from House of the Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Just like
and George really likes to spoil his plot points.
Yep. But it's an interesting one because you're not 100% sure what it could mean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least not right away. And then
right, it could just be a bad omen. Oh, we're going to war and things will break.
Yep.
But it's also literal.
So, and we have one of the most consistent characters in the show, the T, has returned.
No, I'm here.
What?
Yeah.
Huh?
Are you okay?
Yeah, sorry, my audio cut out some. I thought you said he disappeared from the show. I just disappeared from the show is all I heard. So I was like, no, I'm here.
I was saying the T is one of the most consistent characters on the show.
Oh yeah. I like this callback to the series breaking the that dragon in season 1.
Yeah.
And
they glued
that was the same dragon. It was the one that she repaired for him.
Yep. Same wing.
And it also foreshadows what happens in this episode too.
And
we said that.
It's not just that. It's also that she is in the midst of desperately, and I don't think they've shown it up until this point, but like she's in the midst of desperately trying to figure out this whole Song of Ice and Fire thing.
Yes.
Right. She keeps looking for the books that her idiot son got rid of.
Yep.
It's important to her because she just had the conversation with Rhaenyra and she's doubting herself too now, and she's talking to the help like, hey, do you think I made a good choice?
And it's
I don't know, lady. What do you want from me?
It's crazy because I think there's some guilt there too, because I don't think it's as simple as like she didn't know so she did it anyway. It's like she saw the chance to take power and she took it.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, that's what she has to figure out now. It's like, hey, did I actually believe this, or was I just looking for an excuse? And it's just a tiny. They've added these tiny details that just make the book so much better. It's really
enjoy that she then asked the Grand Maester that, and he's just like, yeah, I don't know. The king never really spoke to someone like me about that.
Yeah, he's like, it's none of my business.
I ain't gonna say anything.
Perfect. Right. Yeah, it's the perfect.
You could tell by his body language though that he's like, yeah, I knew you were full of crap.
Does she talk to her dad after this, and then he's like, because she asks the same question, and then he's like, it doesn't matter. His intentions died with him.
She's talking to Larys.
Yeah.
Larys, yeah. Best line. So good.
Yeah, she and I've been saying a lot this season that Alicent has come a long way for me as a character.
Yeah.
She was like fine before, but she was just
kind of one note in season 1.
Yeah, but I've really been enjoying her journey.
Like she's morally degraded, whereas Rhaenyra has morally progressed.
Yeah.
Kind of like
for
opposing arcs. Yeah, for now.
Yeah, that's not gonna last. And it's also one of the things I find most and like we talked about before, Joseph, it's one of the things I find most annoying about her right now, and I think it's on purpose. But the problem is, in the same way like the showrunners didn't totally understand what they did with Rhaenys, I'm not sure if they know how Rhaenyra is coming off right now, but I'm also not sure if it's purposeful. It's why some stuff I'm trying to hold back like judgment on until the whole season's over. Because
it's hard to tell. it's hard to tell if they're going to be aware of what they're doing or not.
Yeah,
because they weren't aware in season 1.
I'm kind of interested to see if they're going to make her be more of like how Daenerys should have been in from season 7 to 8 and so on, like a Mad Queen type deal.
Yeah, like a downfall type thing.
Yep.
Yeah, like it mirrors that.
Yeah, and that's kind of been what I've suspected, because they're trying to get us and the audience so hard to be endeared to Rhaenyra, and I am.
Right.
Like,
they're
like
clearly pushing Team Black. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad that she's trying her best to get peace, with the exception of abdicating the throne, which was usurped from her.
Yeah, but they're doing a really good job right now, though, of showing how Team Black is just getting absolutely pummeled right now.
Yes, they are.
For now.
And they're not.
It's also kind of a win, though, at the end of the episode. But
it depends on like your perspective on it, though, right? Because we'll get there. We'll get there.
I'm
wondering if like
ramifications.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm wondering if like Aemon is going to like rule in his place or something like that, or if they're going to get or if even Kristen Cole, since he's the hand of the king, if it'd be hilarious if Kristen becomes
he's basically just the
regent,
yeah,
like the regent king or something.
The bigger consequence is they're now a dragon short, and they were already short on dragons.
Yeah, and
so now
but so I mean,
Aemon's hands are basically tied. He can't leave King's Landing ever.
Well, that's what they were.
Vhagar's, you mean, or Aemon's? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he already shouldn't have done it this episode, right? Because there's, he's supposed to defend the city, and now they're. I think they only have 2 dragons now. Yeah. They might have a third. I can't remember all the specifics, but they have
they have Vhagar, they have the Queen's dragon, and then
but she's crazy.
She's not doing anything. So like he is their main
They've
thing.
basically got one.
But when
dragon.
you have Shaquille O'Neal of dragons, that's all you really need.
Yeah. The problem that they have now is that they have one rider.
But he can't use it tactically.
Right.
Only defense.
Yeah. It was kind of like well, and of course like and we'll get there, but like the way that they set that all up too, with Aegon, it works really well, just because like they keep the show's like pointing out to you like, look how incompetent he is and the things that he's doing.
O'Neal of Dragon.
Vhagar's awesome, dude. He I didn't realize it, or she actually. She was alive during she was one of the main dragons for Aegon the Conqueror. One of his sister wives rode Vhagar, which was cool.
Man, they could have. There's so much stuff in the book that they have not used.
Yeah.
Or that they skipped. Like the season 1 starts 15 hours into the book.
That's crazy. I'm one day when they finish after the 4th season's over, I'm going to go back and finally read it. But at this point, I'm too invested.
Well, it got extended to a season 5 now.
Oh, are they going to do? Are you sure
they did?
I
heard they said it was going to be 4 seasons.
Yeah.
But they were going to do a sequel to it and George has said he was going to write a sequel to Fire and Blood.
Oh,
it only covers half of the history, right?
I'm down.
They should do Robert's Rebellion.
I think they will eventually.
They should do Robert's Rebellion. They should absolutely do Aegon the Conqueror, and they should do Joe Harris the Conciliator. Is a better story than Aegon the Conqueror.
They need to do old Valyria stuff as well, like just kind of some of the stuff that I've heard about it. And doing it would be like Star Wars' High Republic, but like properly.
Yeah. Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, because there's literally like a whole Game of Thrones thing going on. 1,000 years before even like what we're getting now, with the different the different dragon lord houses and stuff. It'd be so cool.
It'd be cool for them to do Aegon the Conqueror. I forgot about that. That'd be awesome to see the first conqueror of Westeros.
Yep. Yeah, it's a really interesting history. The only thing about that though is that they would have to. Some of the drama in that would be interesting because he really does like steamroll pretty hard, in his conquest. Yeah, it's not all like
you could probably get 1 or 2 seasons from Aegon the Conqueror. You could get 3 seasons from Jaehaerys the Conciliator.
And yeah, who knows?
Yeah, it's funny because reading Fire of Blood, the book is 26 hours long, and I was just, when does the show start? When does it? When does this start? This is so much stuff. Yeah, 15 hours in, well over halfway, season 1 started, and then 2 hours later, season 1 ended.
All right, so the other thing that was mentioned was that Rhaenys had to go back to Dragonstone. She was called back by Jace because the trouble with the council.
Right.
And it's what were you saying?
Rhaenyra's been gone.
Mm-hmm. Again, a move that it's like she made a tactical move that ultimately, like, it's something that I think we'll look back at the end of the season and be like, yeah, I think at this point, like, it's gonna be like, it was a stupid move. She shouldn't have done that. She spent too much time away. Like, Rhaenys, Jace, they're not the people that the council is looking to. Like, they bent the knee to Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra is the one that needs to be here. And she spent a lot of this season just, like, screwing off and, like, going to do all of this, like, different stuff. And it's ultimately causing, like, lots of problems.
When she should have been building her faction.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's because she is very much like her father. She has not gotten into the game yet.
Nope.
Like, little places here and there, and, like, her inability to essentially play the game is why Daemon did what he did. It's why, like, we have
the first move that she makes in this episode is not great.
Pretty stupid, yeah. And Joseph. So because we were talking about this a little bit after the show. So
like, it would have been a complete loss if the king hadn't showed up, right?
Yeah.
And she barely managed to get something good out of it.
They do 100% believe that Vhagar is still in King's Landing.
Yes.
I just think it's my argument wasn't that my argument was that Lord Corlys, even Rhaenys, one of them on the council couldn't have just believed that. It should have been, because if I'm the audience, I mean, right off the bat, as soon as it was announced at the council meeting, hey, they're taking Rook's Rest in broad daylight, we're going to send dragons. The first thought is, that's really odd. They know this castle is really close to Dragonstone, and we got you know what I mean?
Well, that's not exactly how that conversation went, because they
no, it was implied though that Kristen Cole he'd been basically unopposed, right?
Right.
So they were trying to make it look like he was getting cocky.
Yep.
Which is why and it worked, right?
Because
there's
a couple things
because they still think Rhaenyra is twiddling her thumbs, right? They both of them have spies in each other's courts, right? So they know that it's
they've been moving under cover of night and taking castles at night. Aemon and Kristen have been plotting since, I think, episode 1, maybe episode 2.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then,
well, you saw them, making moves on maps and stuff.
Yeah, Jace confirms that they need to go and send a dragon now because they don't want word to get to King's Landing, because that would be the reason that they would bring Vhagar.
Yeah. I don't find it likely that Lord Corlys, out of everyone, considering his character, and even Rhaenys and her experience, would just...
It's because they only
assume that Vhagar is there.
They can't send the king because it's the king, and they can't send their only defense.
Yeah, they have information.
It's a really stupid move tactically to send a dragon there.
Yeah.
And that's why they thought we can take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just have to agree to disagree, because I think it's kind of malarkey. Like, I get what they were trying to do. It wasn't executed well enough for me. Like, I get Kristen Cole's characterization is definitely within that, but I would still think there would be someone on that council wise enough to be like, hey guys, this may be a trap. It just seems like
maybe, but I I would have
it
to
just
know
seems like
why. Like, why would they think that? Like, think about it from
but
their.
You also have to take action in war. Like everything
Right.
could be a trap, right? Like you have to, even if it is a trap, are you just going to let them keep taking castles? Like you have to act at some point.
Right.
No, I think you're wrong.
But like if you think that
technically you're wrong that like if you know that with Rook's Rest, right? If they knew or suspected that Vagar was there, they probably more than likely just wouldn't have gone at all and just been like, hey, listen, this is going to just have to be lost. And or they would have sent like 3, dragons there. 2 at least, possibly 3 to take it on.
If they knew Vagar was there, they would have attacked King's Landing.
Well, then that was going to be my third option was that, or if they knew that Vagar was there, they would attack King's Landing, right? But the point being is that it seems like with Lord Corlys' experience, being a commander and everything, that he would have.
He's an ocean commander.
Yeah, he's a ship guy.
Yeah, he understands like that's like his whole purpose, right? Like he's not.
Yeah, but generally, ships and land, but there's still carryover and similarities.
Right? It's the Song of Fire and Melted Ice. He's.
No, I don't know, man. Like, because everything to me seems like it was set up that way. Not to mention that like they are in a bit of disarray at this point, so they're going to be making bad decisions. Like it's, I get your point, but like
you're right. The setup was there.
They're not. I don't know. Like
it just didn't work for me specifically. I just thought like at least I could see because I don't know much about her other council members, right? I don't know. Their lords and stuff like that. I imagine they probably do have some counsel, but considering that there's been experience, but considering there's been a lot of peace with Viserys' rule, they probably don't. Maybe they don't have a lot of battle experience, whereas Lord Corlys does and Rhaenys does. And so I just would have suspected they would have been like, why don't we send a scout?
Well,
why
here's
don't
here's the problem, right? Well,
why don't we see where Vagar is at, like 100%? Did he say in King's Landing?
They didn't have time. They didn't have time. For one, because Rhaenyra wasn't there.
That's a good point.
Rhaenyra wasn't there. They're not going to send extra dragons because the only other two that dragon rider. Well, they have 3 dragon riders right now, but all 3 of them are technically royalty. So you have Rhaenyra,
right.
You have Jace, and you have Jace's betrothed. So there's like no way. There's just no way they're doing that. The only 2 people that are technically expendable are Rhaenys and Daemon. So and Daemon's gone, right? So like that's a problem,
right?
And so Rhaenys knows like she's the only person that can go. And there is a bit of precedent that they need to keep Rook's Rest because it potentially is going to cut them off from land travel.
The land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like
that's a good point.
It's like they were saying before, like the dragons aren't the only thing that win the battle. It's the men marching with the dragons behind them.
I think I probably have come on too strong with this point. It wasn't something like make or broke the episode. I was just like, come on, Lord Corlys, Rhaenys. Somebody would have. Yeah, somebody would have.
Would you have been happier if just someone said, "Hey, but what if it's a trap?" Or, "Oh no, Vagar wouldn't leave."
Yeah, just something. Well, something like that. Because I would imagine if I'm there, like I'm gonna make sure, as to the best of my abilities, if I'm Rhaenyra or on her council, that we know where Vagar is at all times.
Right.
And maybe David, this just points back to.
I think
I get them being in disarray, but I would still think with Lord Corlys, like
if they had a line of dialogue like that, though, it would have been really repetitive from like the Green Council. Like we've already heard all of the arguments why it would be stupid to send their dragons,
and it's part of
because the Green said no, you can't do that.
It's part of the setup.
So yeah, we could have had a scene with the Blacks saying the same thing, but and if
they
all know it,
bro, and if they had mentioned that right before they were about to go into that fight and everyone just dismissed it, everyone in the audience would have been like, oh, well, obviously that's what's going on.
Yeah, it would have given away the twist, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, I knew that was coming as soon as that,
But it's
that was more so where I was coming from. I saw it a mile away when everything started to get laid out, prior to them showing Aemon being there and stuff like that. I literally said,
it means that you're paying attention. And they're still doing their job right, because if you're paying attention, there are subtle things in there. So you have like the stuff from the previous episodes, and then if you're paying attention, that second council meeting, Aemon's not there.
See, I like it when my TV shows just hold my hand the entire time.
I'm just more like, again, I just would have expected someone to be like, kind of like I said to you yesterday, David, or on Sunday. Like, why else would they be attacking broad daylight? I get like showing Kristen Cole's arrogance.
Well, that's what they. Yeah, that's unfortunate for them.
Unfortunately, I don't know. It seemed too much like a trap to me that one of the experienced people would be able to smell.
Well,
but again, the setup was there. It's not something that's make or break. Yes. Oh, this ruined it and dropped it down. Episode 4 was really, really, really good.
Right.
Yeah.
Am I having mic? Can you guys hear me?
The battle is just
you guys
so well and more importantly, Rainy's just finally gone. So
yeah.
Crap. Can you guys hear me?
It's such a shame. It's such a shame that they fumbled season 1, because I really wanted to feel something for her character, right? It could have been such an emotional moment of, oh no, this incredibly consistent moral character has become a victim of the Game of Thrones. But the only thing anyone felt in that moment was,
she's finally gone. Yeah. Sorry, my mic cut out for some reason.
Done.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about, right? It's like, it's weird that it's like makes her character and like the end of that, like, as much as I enjoyed it and the way that they did everything, it's still kind of like, well, at least that plot thread's finally finished. Like, we don't have to talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see what else we need to cover in all of this.
I think it's just the fight now.
The fight, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it is just the fight.
It starts like halfway through the episode.
Kristen Cole, we get the scene. One of the scenes that I really liked that was Kristen Cole, on the taking, who was it? We get that one scene with them. Sorry, the thing's not working super great.
Lagging.
Yeah. I'm getting a little lag on my end. Right here. Here we go.
Right.
Yeah, right here.
We get to see him, the previous castle that he took.
Yes. They have a funny name, and it's slipping my mind right now.
I can't remember either.
Blackens or something like that.
It's like the Brackens and the Blackens.
There's the Brackens and the Black. But this isn't them. That's the two warring factions that are in the Riverlands.
This is some other guy.
Yeah. He is the father of Rhaenyra's Kingsguard.
His 2 seconds of screen time are fantastic.
You're right. It just oozes, right? And that's what I love about the show, is like, there are so many other shows, man. Like, you don't even get these little moments from characters that are in it for 10, 30 seconds. This is the first
time you've seen this character, and you love him.
Yep, you know exactly who he is.
Mouthing off to Kristen Cole.
Yep, and he's like, yours will come too. It's really good, man. And it's a great line too, because it does sort of subvert the potential expectation of what's going to happen to Kristen in this episode. Because you hear something like that, and you, like, for me, you immediately go like, oh, are they setting something up for the end of this? Like, is this not going to end well for him? And you're just not sure, right? Like, you have no idea exactly what's well, if you haven't read the books, you're not 100% sure about what's going to happen to his character.
See, I know everything, so.
And of course, we've kind of talked about the council meeting.
Kristen's got a lot of other messed up things to do. So
where's this? There's one shot I wanted to talk about.
I would love it if in the next episode, because Aegon, is burnt to a crisp or whatnot. I'm assuming Aegon probably lives because of the armor, the Valyrian armor he has on, but he's probably going to be burned really bad. It'd be great if Sir Kristen Cole becomes, like, because he's the hand, becomes the leader. That would be just amazing.
Oh, I think it'd be, well, that's one of the funniest things in an interesting way about Kristen Cole, is that he has just been constantly failing upwards since the start.
Yes.
When they start talking Valyrian too, it's so wonderful.
There's this shot though, right? There's a lot. These are always some of my favorite.
You think I should make war or whatever? It's so good.
I
his
love
performance, man. His performance is phenomenal. He's really, really pulling off the I'm trying to look good for the cameras, but I don't know what I'm doing. Right? Like I'm trying to be a big boy, but I'm not good at it. And my brother's just so much cooler than me.
There's so much being said in this with like beyond just like the dialogue, because the dialogue's great, right? And you're getting an understanding of like Aegon's Kingsguard are idiots. They're bumbling. Yeah. They don't know what they're doing. They shouldn't be in those positions to begin with. It's a condemnation on Aegon, and then on the opposite side of that you have Aemond, and it's funny because they have him like positioned on opposite sides of the table too, who is clearly been like thinking about this, and then the whole time this guy right here is just paying attention to what Aemond's doing, and we don't know why necessarily.
And he's sitting in Daemon's old chair too.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and just the looks that he's giving Aemond throughout this entire thing, because he does the whole thing. Aemond goes back and he sits down, and I just know where's the shot. I think it's coming up.
What the show does so well is that the subtext is 100% more important than the text.
Yep.
And they're so good at writing that dialogue where people are talking, but they're having a completely different conversation between the lines.
And there's stuff going on in their heads.
It's been a really long time since we've gotten that kind of quality writing from Hollywood.
Outside the Acolyte, you're right.
So, and
Acolyte is perfection
in their head.
And of course, this is what we were talking about before.
That's real Star Wars to me.
With Larys and Alicent, and then she basically says each side, it's like Aegon's people will have his side and Rhaenyra's will have their side, and there'll be a big battle and lots of people will die, and then someone will end up on the throne. And that's that's the continuing like cycle of this universe.
I'm loving Larys too. Any scene where he's in, he's just wonderful.
Yep, and he's just kind of biding his time, man. You're not
like 2 episodes ago.
Go ahead.
I love the conversation that he had with the king, with Aegon.
Yes.
Where he talks him out of doing something stupid. He's like, this is great. A lot of people would be saying this, and some other people might think that it would be stupid. He's like, who would say that? Literally everyone. But that conversation was just the way that he's able to manipulate the king. The dialogue's just really, really well written.
Well, even in this episode,
especially after like Alicent and the Hand have just failed to control him, he just withers his way in. And, hey, I know how to use the words better.
And that's the thing about Larys is like I've heard it said, and like I pretty much agree with this. Like I don't know whose side he's actually on.
You're not supposed to,
right? And that's what's so interesting about him, because you could like if he wants Aegon where he is, right? He probably has the resources and the understanding to have stopped him from leaving King's Landing, but he didn't. And it's like, maybe that'll come up. Like maybe we'll see. I'm curious. One of the things I always love about the big
he's the little finger, mirror, and he's got his own agenda, and you're not really ever sure what it was.
And it's so cool because like episodes like this that are a little more spectacle. I don't want to. Sometimes spectacle's terrible in these shows, but what's so great about this is like the fallout in the next episode. I always love it because, especially with Game of Thrones, it's just the conversations and the thoughts and like what's going to happen with people, and are people going to be annoyed with certain outcomes, and will they eventually switch sides because they start to realize that maybe they're playing for the wrong team, or whatever the case may be. It's always so much fun.
I I can't wait for Damon to find out and for him to say in the next episode, well, she should have burned them when she had the chance.
Well, that was exactly what I thought about Rhaenys, is that if he finds out, he's going to be like, I told her we should have gone and taken care of him. You know?
Yep.
He says it's like, that was like what, episode 1 when he stops her and he's like, we need to go take care of this right now. And she basically, because it's that, and it's so interesting, right? Because the show, and I kind of think they've moved away from that. Like, if a lot of the writers and the showrunners and even a lot of the actors have kind of moved away from the sort of like modern day talking points this season. There was a lot of that going on, and then like you would watch a show and be like, what are y'all talking about? And I don't know if like they realized that was the case. Like, they've pivoted in a way that's like, oh, maybe we need to stop doing that because it's stupid, and clearly people are watching this and understand what's happening. Because you have a lot of the men in the universe that are very like action oriented, and sometimes to their detriment, and then a lot of the women are unwilling to act. Like Alicent, Rhaenys, Rhaenyra, like none of these women are willing to
to their own detriment.
Yeah, to their own detriment in the same way. Like they're different sides of the same coin, essentially, which is really more of like what one of the major themes they should have been pushing was. But obviously, like they're not, they're trying to like push their talking points or whatever. And thankfully, it seems like they've really pulled back from a lot of that.
There was a little bit of that in episode 2, but
yeah, I mean it's almost impossible that it's not going to be there, but most of it is so in line with the universe, and like Rhaenys.
That was the same writer of episode 9 in season 1 too.
Yeah. But like even Rhaenys and the way that she thinks things through, it can all be like brought back to that point of like she was denied the throne, and she's bitter about it. The problem is that they want to be like, well, her bitterness is, she should be bitter, and it's like, well, it's not a great way to like play the game necessarily, But yeah, it's always really interesting to see the way that they are playing these characters, and that Daemon again was probably right in that situation. Like he understood what the major threat was, and you have to wonder if in the end Rhaenys is sort of like, dang, I probably should have listened to him. All right, so we get back. I guess we can talk about hours a little bit, because we did talk about most of Daemon's experience with basically being haunted.
Did my mic cut out?
It might have.
We can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
You can hear me.
Crap.
Before, but...
Can you hear David?
Nope, can't hear me. This keeps happening.
Yeah, I can't hear him.
Can you hear me?
I heard him for a second.
There we go.
Yeah,
there you
go. Some things go. I don't know what's going on. No, I don't even have the mic plugged into the. It keeps like cutting my mic out for some reason. I don't know what's going on with Discord tonight. We'll just have to keep. I'll have to keep an eye on it. But yeah, this is like Alice Rivers. She's probably a witch. She pretty much straight up said it. And
she's drugging him too, which is great.
Yeah. There's some interesting stuff going on. Like characters like this are always so interesting because the question comes up like, is what her role with Daemon is, especially from the perspective of like not knowing where things are necessarily headed. Only having like
I don't 100% know what they're doing either. Because they're introducing her a little bit earlier, and she's important. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what's going to happen with all of that, because characters like this, you're like, all right, so she clearly has, it's again, we were talking about the supernatural stuff earlier. She clearly has some sort of like supernatural abilities. It's not just that she's drugging him. And then like she clearly has sway over him too in some way. Because like Daemon is, he didn't want to eat the food that was offered to him when he first got to Harrenhal. But he willingly takes whatever this weird stuff she put in the cup for him,
Pretty much without a second thought, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what there is to say about her. You know, she says a lot of like these little things. She's like talks about how she's a barn owl trapped in a human body, and she one of the interesting things she says too, because he gets like bored with her, and then he's like fighting with your wife, like that, you know, and he's like, huh? It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that was interesting, I'm pretty sure the showrunners, they were talking about that after the show thing, but they're talking about how Damon's just like completely out of his element in Harrenhal. He has no.
He hates he doesn't believe in magic either.
Right,
you know?
right. He has no control over anything that's going on. You know, we were saying, he's having trouble gathering men to his side. And he's being confronted with a bunch of the stuff from his past, and like his it's like a lot of internal stuff that's going on with him, which I think is it's really interesting, and such like a like juxtaposed to the first season, where it seems like they're just completely opposite situations for him to be in, and I like that they're kind of playing with that and with his character that way.
Well, and Laris even says it. He's like, "Yeah, I lost my castle. What is he going to do with it? It's a trap for Daemon. He can't use it."
Yeah.
Great stuff.
So, and of course, still really good acting. You know, he goes on this like trip, and he just kind of like all of a sudden he's in the hall, the Blackwoods and the Brackens. That's who it is.
I don't know what they're doing with this, but I like it.
Yep, me too.
Don't know.
You know, Matt Smith is already really charismatic, and he adds some, you know, just is so good playing this character. And then like what they're doing with the story and like where they're trying to take Daemon is also just really interesting to follow. So it's the Blackwoods and the Brackens. Those are the two families that have this massive blood feud that goes back like generations. And I like that they did the callback. This is the kid who was in episode maybe it's episode 3 or 4.
One of the suitors.
Yeah, maybe it's episode 3. That first season, like some of those, it's crazy. I going back and watching it, I was like, man, I forgot that like the order in which some of this stuff happened in. But yeah, he was the kid who got in a fight with one of the Brackens and kills him, and that's what causes Rhaenyra and them to like leave. They're like, because I think it's at Storm's End. Where she's like there and she's looking for suitors, but just like it was kind of cool that he got brought back and that they're, you know, kind of keeping up with. He looks
so much older.
Oh yeah. Just a very cool...
it has to be a different actor.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. That kid.
That was before the
Yeah, the kid.
That was before the time skip in season 1.
And that kid was like, you know, small and like really skinny too. So yeah, he's still just trying to.
Yeah, I at first thought at first thought that it was the one from episode 3, right when the cold open, or was the cold open with the Blackwoods and the Brackens fighting, and then it just cuts to them being dead.
Yep.
I thought that that was the guy, the suitor, because he looked a lot like the actor.
Yeah,
but I was wrong. It's this one. So.
Which makes sense because he probably wouldn't be on the front lines as like like necessarily as the head.
Was this one a Blackwood or a Bracken?
Blackwood. The Brackens wear yellow, I believe.
Yeah.
And you know, he has a vision of his, you know, his dead wife. And that's pretty much it. I think that's all. Is that all of Daemon for this episode?
I think so.
Yes, sir.
We've talked about this a little bit already. I mean, like the biggest thing to note here is that like Aegon is just getting bored. I will say after this episode, I will miss his character quite a bit. He's been quite enjoyable to watch. Yes. And I've enjoyed his performance, so like I don't 100% know what they've got planned for him for the rest of the season, but it's going to be interesting to say the least. So yeah,
I'm interested in seeing it because the actor's done a phenomenal job this season.
He's been incredible. Probably, oh man, I think he's been my favorite performance outside of Matt Smith.
And this is really good too, right? It's like,
well, okay, if you don't count Viserys, right?
Larry's is just like constantly watching, right? He's not always saying stuff, but he's keeping an eye on like certain things. And this is why I was saying like he probably could have stopped him, you know?
Yeah.
And of course, his Kingsguard.
He could have talked him out of it again.
And he casually just like doesn't seem to care, right? Like he's just okay. And then we get the conversation with Alicent that is a bit of a callback to Joffrey when he says, "I'm the king," and Tywin tells him, "Any man who says that he is the king is no real king." And she gives him somewhat of a similar line. And of course, it's nice that they're not just like using the exact same language, but that you can believe that like these kinds of conversations probably happened quite often with the heirs to the throne, especially the younger ones, because they have this like sense of who they are, and then she's basically like, you need to shut up and listen to the people who are older than you that understand these things. And unfortunately for Aegon, he does not listen. And then we get to the battle. We're finally pretty much here. Rhaenyra returns. I think I just skipped over it a little bit, but I think this... Hang on. Maybe not. Oh, yeah. Here's the scene. Gwaine? Is that her brother's name? Alicent's brother?
I don't remember his name.
It's something like
I really like his character though.
Yeah, he's very he's very interesting. The only reason I remember that is because like Gwaine, I think isn't it Gwaine the Green Knight? Isn't that a old Arthurian legend? Something like that.
Oh, I can't remember.
I don't remember his name from that either.
Anyway, but like he has this conversation with Cole, and again, I guess they're trying to get across is that Kristen all of a sudden is like changing this plan, and it's like, why are we attacking during the day? Because he pretty much hasn't told like the assumption would be maybe anybody, like how much anyone knows about.
Because loose lips sink ships.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. I like Nerdrotic had mentioned this or whatever, but like it's one of those things where he was saying like men will go to like whorehouses or all these different places, and you're in trouble if like they say the wrong thing to the wrong person, and like the way that always tends to happen.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so you have to be careful about who you tell people, and so it was probably him and Aemon, and then like anyone else, he's like, hey, I'm going to tell you that you need to fire off a signal, and then when you see that signal, blow the horn, and then when you hear the horn, you blow the horn. And these guys probably have no idea what's going on, but obviously they're going to listen to him. And so it's like, it is kind of interesting to think about the game theory behind what he was probably planning. But I also like Gwaine's line here where he's like,
the silence makes a lot more sense in this than it did in The Last Jedi, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And he, you're still kind of thinking like, dude, what is his plan, right? Like, this seems really stupid. And it's what's nice about it, and I think like the argument for it from a previous episode is the way that he treated Eric, in episode 2.
That's where I recognize him from. Sorry, I was trying to figure out where I'd seen Freddie Fox, the Gawain actor.
Oh, what was it?
He was in the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
Oh,
he's Ian Fleming.
Oh, okay.
Like I know I've seen this guy in something. So,
but they, and then he tells him, what is it? He's like afraid to die, and he's like, no, I'm just a pragmatist or whatever. And then Rhaenyra returns, finally. I mean, we're a little over half an hour into the episode, roughly, before she finally comes back. Like you were saying,
these episodes have been so long.
Mm-hmm.
Have any gone under the hour mark? I think maybe one of them did, but
maybe. But I mean, like it's sometimes I'm like it's not long enough.
yeah.
They'll cut to black for like certain things. What were you saying?
I love how long they've been.
Oh yeah, me too. And they'll like cut to black, and it's kind of getting to the end of the episode. And I'm like, oh no, is it over? And then something else happens. I'm like, oh cool, there's more.
There's more. There's more.
Yep.
Well, especially this one, this episode in particular, cut to black several times. And you're like, are we ending it there, or do we get more?
Yeah.
Do we get more? Do we get more?
And so of course she gets chastised by Jace, who he's trying to kind of like fill the role. And I honestly, like, Rhaenyra's, again, this is like it's not just her, but everybody does these like things, but like the way there's another one in here, but like the way she looks at Jace with like that motherly love, like it's so subtle, but she does that. And then when her Kingsguard finds out that her father, hang on, I want to see if I can find it, because it's just these like subtle little things that they do. I think it's a little further back. See if I can find it.
Well, I loved their moment in, what was it, episode 1 or 2, where he comes back from the wall, and they just and he's trying to like report in, and they just that was so good.
And they find out that he's dead. I might not be able to get it, but she like it's one of those things where she doesn't do it like a full on like comforting moment, but she actually comforts him a little bit, just a little like motion of like kindness towards someone that she clearly cares about, who's like protecting her. I can't find it. It's in there. I noticed. I watched the episode again today, and
it's when they're talking about how one of the castles was taken, right?
Yeah, the guy who lost his head earlier. That's this guy's father.
Yeah,
right here.
He's like, wait, they attacked where? They attacked your daddy.
Yep.
Sorry, bud.
So, and then Rhaenys, of course, realizes that she's the one that has to go. Again, doing her duty, whether she likes it or not. And then they do the whole ice and fire thing. I don't have a whole lot to say about that.
Yeah.
At this point,
same thing, but
at this point, it's like, guys, remake Game of Thrones, and then we can look back on this a little more fondly every time you guys.
Well, I think there was a very specific reason for it, because the Song of Ice and Fire is engraved on the dagger.
Yep.
And Aemon picked that up
at
the end of this episode.
Yep.
And it was probably very hot, and I think it might have like burned into his hand. And so I think he's going to vicariously figure out some stuff.
Okay.
And that's not like a book spoiler. That they're adding stuff. So the Song of Ice and Fire is not in the book. It does not mention the prophecy at all.
And we were talking before about like the dragons. I think that's the first one we get, because they show Rhaenys and Aegon with, this is Sunfire.
These dragons have been done so well. They're all so unique too, and that's what George. There was an article that was funny before this season came out. They're like, House of the Dragon season 2 is finally fixing Game of Thrones' biggest mistake. And I was like, and the article was, they're making the dragons more unique. And I was like,
yeah, they're interesting.
I don't think that was the biggest mistake.
Oh no, of course not.
It's a good change.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're not just like big like scary animals now that Yeah, I don't know, because I think I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I've read the books. Excuse me, but I think Dany does lock up the dragons at one point, right?
Yeah,
I know they do in the show, and I think that does happen in the book too. It's just been a really long time. But yeah, she has like kind of a different relationship with them a little bit for a while, and it would have been nice if they had, they're really trying to make the dragons characters to the best that they can in this. And this is really like, Sunfire is one of them that we haven't seen a whole lot of.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, and like the playful nature with Aemon, or Aegon, excuse me. It just like because I think I mentioned this to Joseph, but I was like, man, I feel bad for these dragons, man. Like they just they clearly they're so loyal and like, you know, justice for Sunfire. So then the battle starts, and Rhaenys heads off after having like a little moment with shoot. You know, it's so funny. I can't. Her dragon's name is slipping my mind now. I'm pretty sure it starts with an M.
Meleys.
Meleys. I think you're right.
Yeah,
it is Meleys.
And they're still going through the whole Song of Ice and Fire thing, and the nice little touch of like Aegon being like drunk and he's not fully like stable on top of the dragon, and it also shows a little bit of the inexperience that he has as a rider, because he really doesn't.
Like his opening move is I'm gonna blow fire at another dragon.
Yeah. It's like all he really knows. In the same, you could probably even argue like, in the same way he is inexperienced on the dragon, the same way that he doesn't know High Valyrian very well. It's just all this stuff's been.
It's all mirrored very well.
Yep, and battle's pretty great. I think there wasn't anything from like a. The Dothraki didn't run out into the middle of the darkness and get obliterated for no reason.
It's all handled well, and like the things that are done poorly are explained because we're doing this on purpose. I think you were talking about Nerdrotic. I think Shad Brooks was talking about how his only complaint was if they should have been running toward, if they're trying to siege the castle, they should have been running. But like that makes sense. If they're trying to bait out the dragons, they don't want to get close to the castle because they know a dragon's coming. They want to be able to run back into the woods.
Yep.
So they're going slow. Like there are tactical mistakes, and they're on purpose.
And then we get
very well done.
We get the reveal of Vhagar. And
that first shot where you see him through the woods, and great stuff.
Which is another case for it, because like Vhagar blends in with the forest. They're very
and he's got like ropes and stuff on him. He's put camouflage on him.
Yep. They're very intentional with like, this shot is intentional, right? Like, it's funny if you want to make a comparison to the Acolyte, with trees, there is a purpose in showing you like the thing that's behind the trees, right? Whereas with the Acolyte, when Osha wakes up from getting knocked out for like the 7,000th time, she's watching. You're watching like lightsaber stuff happen from behind the trees, and you're like, "What is this? Like, why was this the decision to have that be the case, and to spend so much time on it too? You know what I mean?" You really, I mean,
Silly.
it's funny how these two shows. You could spend quite a bit of time being like, yeah, there are similarities in the way that like you spend these heavy dialogue scenes and they mean something, and there's a lot going on between different characters in this, and the emotions on their face, I mean, showing emotion in general, versus a show that doesn't do that and is trying to just explain everything to you on its face.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll take this very scene, right? You see Aegon, or not Aegon,
Aemon.
Man, Aemon. Aemon sees his brother show up, and his initial reaction is panic. Oh no, he's showed up and he's going to steal my glory. And then, oh wait, this is a great opportunity. Like and that's not revealed through dialogue. It's revealed through his face. You know, he says, "Oh, you idiot."
Because
he
has a pretty strong claim to the throne at this point, right?
Yeah.
Because Aegon doesn't have any male successors.
Not anymore. He's supposed to. In the books, he does.
Oh, okay.
But
that's right.
They took him out. They took him out, and that makes this scene even better.
Yeah, it makes a lot more sense. Because I had heard too that it wasn't the story in the book that Aegon and Aemon were apparently setting this trap together.
Yes, and so they've made some changes from the books. and I was worried about it in episode 1, but after this episode, it makes sense. Like I get why they did it.
Yeah.
Because I was disappointed with Blood and Cheese because it's better in the book.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Because he has a son. He has 2 sons and a daughter. And they show up and they said, we're only supposed to do one, we're only supposed to kill one of your sons. And so they ask the queen to choose. Right? It's not, but they're not asking her which one's the boy. They're saying, which one of your boys would you like us to kill?
Yeah.
She chooses the younger son, thinking he's young, he's not going to understand what's happening. And then they kill the older son.
Mm.
And it's brutal. So I was super disappointed with episode 1. Because I didn't like that they took that choice out. But they took the character out, right? They took out, now he's left without an heir, and that makes this scene better. And the changes that they made to this scene, it's not them plotting together, which you could argue isn't even a change from the book. It's just solidifying the unreliable history.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it retroactively, and they've already said, in the previews for the next episode, they're saying that it was the king that killed Rhaenys.
Right, and that's what I was kind of wondering, if we were going to get a callback that was like.
And so the history books are going to write down. They're not going to write down the king was an idiot. They're going to say, yes, the king and his brother plotted together to go kill Rhaenys.
Yep.
And that's not what happened, and it's better. It's so much better that it was a plan. It was a plan that got ruined, and then an opportunity was seized.
And then of course Kristen Cole tries to fix the situation.
But he probably wouldn't have taken that big of a risk if the other kid's character existed, right? If there was another heir.
Right. And so
I don't hate episode 1 as much anymore.
And see, from like my perspective, I was like pretty happy with the first episode because I haven't read.
I figured most people who hadn't read the book would be very shocked.
Yeah.
With episode 1 and satisfied at how. I mean, and the sound effects helped. It was horrific.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
They didn't need to show it on camera, but I was mad that they took the choice away.
Yeah.
Because that made it way worse for me.
Let's see. Where were we? Oh, okay. So Kristen Cole realizes that Aegon has joined the battle.
Right.
And
right.
Again, dude,
he's looking around.
He's like,
looking around. Where the heck,
bro? Look at his
Aemon.
Look at his lips right here. He's like, this is such good acting. Like he's done such an incredible job.
He gets blamed for it, right?
Yeah.
They have the Gawain. Are you kidding me? This was your plan?
Yep.
Endanger the king, you moron? He's like, this wasn't my plan.
Yep. And then he just rolls with it.
I had a good plan. Yeah, well, and then he immediately pivots.
And encourages his men.
Your king has joined the battle. He's a really smart guy.
And then dude, this shot of Aegon's so good. He's like clearly drunk. He like, like you were saying, technically he shoots that blast of fire because he's clearly unexperienced, and you see the difference in the experience of the riders, and that it does to a degree matter in these fights.
Well, yeah, you can have a trained show horse, and you get someone who's an idiot on them, and it's not going to go well.
And then just like I like too that like the fights between the dragons, like we're getting that first kind of really. I mean, they did it in, was it season 8 or is it season 7 where the ice dragon and Drogon fight?
That's season 8.
Is it season 8
or season 7? Sorry.
Oh
no, because he dies in season 7. They fight in season 8.
Season 8 at the long night, right? Isn't
the long night, and it's all dark and you can't see. Yeah, it's dumb.
One of these days, I am gonna sit down and like go back through that show again just to like refresh my memory of some of that stuff. Especially those last couple of seasons. I watched them once and was pretty much done with it. But yeah, like the brutality of it, I love that. Like it's something that that
well, and it shows that experience you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
The king comes in and does a fire blast, which doesn't do anything, and Rhaenys just instantly goes for the kill, slices the dragon's belly open, and pours boiling hot dragon blood onto the
and you get it's so cool too because you get the experience of everyone on the ground, like because they've been talking a lot about how like when the dragons show up in these fights, like everything is just collateral damage, like it's not good. Like there's a reason
even
they don't want to
the
bring
injury,
them out.
right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it's canon that the dragon's blood is at boiling temperature, so it's like getting tar thrown at you.
And just like a split second, the castle's like, "Yay, we're saved!" And then they look over at the tree line, and you see the wings.
Doopsie. Every time they reveal Vhagar, it's
so good, dude.
Just a treat.
Vhagar's awesome, man, and like they really do a good. Again, the small things that they do in the show with even with showing size and stuff like that, because we get this shot. I think it's right here. Oh no, it's not yet. It's coming up later. They play around with the size of the dragon.
Fighting Vhagar, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love this. I love the plausible deniability he gets. Yeah, I shot him with fire, but they were entangled, and it was the only way I could save him.
He's like, crap. Yeah, he's like, oh, you're here.
There was collateral damage, and I saved his life. Even though I was definitely trying to kill him.
Because that conversation's going to come up and Alicent will be there and she's just going to know exactly what was going on,
That was too funny. Because Aemon was like, finally, I'm getting what I want.
The look on his face. Yeah. Oh no.
And it's such
I do hate, though, that this makes the brothel scene in episode 3 necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, well, I mean, they could have done without that one part, though.
Right.
I mean,
because it's literally you just need the last 30. You just need the last 30 seconds of
Yeah,
that wasn't
just being embarrassed.
It was like
that one part wasn't necessary.
Yeah, like,
they could have. There's many ways that could have unfolded without all of that being there.
They're like we just need to make sure we get a good 5 seconds of this, like
fall out the sky and Melees, and then the fight between Melees and Vhagar.
The little
really, really well done.
The little touch too of the dragons exploding when they hit the ground
she
is
goes
awesome.
Underneath, and Vhagar grabs his talons, and then they're circling and both shooting fire at each other, but both missing.
Yes.
And, that shot is just money.
And
I hate her crown. I think it looks so dorky.
I kind of think that Aegon's crown looks dorky as well.
Yeah, but it fits because he's a dork, right? And so he doesn't fit the crown.
Yeah, I think the crown itself just looks pretty bad. I say his crown, his helmet, with the jewel there. It just, I don't know. It looked kind of cheap.
This is really cool. Like,
I just don't.
You see,
like the design of her crown. I think it makes her look silly.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. But yeah, that's a good shot to see the size difference. The size difference
because Melees compared to Sunfire was such a big advantage, but then
such a great episode. Good fight too.
Yeah, just compared to the size.
I kind of would have preferred. I was texting, telling David about this after the episode, that I'm kind of like over Vhagar just being able to, the largest dragon in King's Landing. Again, doesn't mean that you can't sneak up, but now killing 2 dragons from sneak attacks. It's like I would have preferred it to be like Vhagar versus Melees. Like Melees will obviously have the agility. You say like speed over short distances versus, would be Melees over long distances. It would be Vhagar because Vhagar's wingspan would be able to catch up to Melees. Yeah.
So,
obviously, but over short distance,
she realizes she can't run away, so she turns back.
Well,
that's the
question. I think she could have.
Has the advantage, and it would have been cool to see Melees beating up on Vhagar in that aspect.
More dodging and weaving.
But then Vhagar, when Vhagar hits, even if it's just one time, it's going to make a difference. It's like power versus speed.
It's the Viper in the Mountain fight all over again.
Yeah. So let me this one. Sorry, my mic went out again. I think she could have gotten away. I think she chose not to, like we were talking about before.
I disagree. I think it's pretty obvious that she can't outrun Vhagar.
Or it could be both.
Well, I think she has this moment because we've been talking about how she. Hang on. The biggest thing about this scene too is that she has this opportunity to finally take action, and she takes action instead of getting away. And I think that's sorry, this thing's still lagging a little bit. But she has this moment where she gets away from the fight. It's right here, because it's after she finishes locking with them. And Vhagar's in the distance here.
Tightens her belt.
Yep. And she makes that. She looks back, and she makes decision.
And makes the choice to go back.
Yep. And it's like, I mean, like you see the look on her face, right? Like,
but to your point, David, I'm not entirely convinced she wouldn't have been able to make an escape somehow. But I do agree that regardless, she made the conscious choice to go back.
Yep. Because look at this. I mean, like, look at look at the time she had too. So this is one of the things that works.
Just more wordless exposition, her strapping in her belt.
Yep.
Clearly indicating, if my fate is with my dragon, probably gonna die, but might make it out.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be fun to see. There's like a freaking Air Force pilot review what is.
Yeah,
this is what disoriented.
Oh man,
Rainy's watching.
Yeah, and she's got it's twofold too.
Yeah, talking about like the G-force and acceleration,
the sun, just everything.
The
and blackouts
and
whiteouts,
it's kind of like, how did she, like, if you don't see Vhagar, like, obviously the only place that Vhagar could be hiding.
Well, it could be in the sun.
So
it could be.
There's some.
It could have gone high. It could have gone low.
But like, you definitely know straight ahead the only place that could cover Vhagar is going to be this castle.
Yeah.
You have to.
It was a tactical error. Yeah.
Well, sure, but you also.
But at the same time, at this point in the battle, she's tired and weary.
And you have to remember too that they've been talking about how she's the only person that's been patrolling like hundreds of miles of the area that they're in that first episode. So like she is like, and you got to understand that like this compared to the first episode, it's been like a couple days. So like you think about the mental like weariness that she probably has at this point. She's not going.
They made an effort to show like her eyes were like bloodshot the whole time. Like it wasn't because she was crying. Like she's exhausted.
Yeah. And so I think it's a lot of.
And
again,
she's old.
Yeah, this stuff
she's pretty old.
Yeah, this stuff has all. She's in her 60s, right? It's like something like that. Like she and Viserys were close to the same age. I'm pretty sure. And they're both getting up in. So right, yeah. I mean, like she's experienced, but that experience comes with the fact that she just, she probably can't hang like she used to. And yeah, so that's why I'm saying like I think it was like this conscious decision to turn back.
Yeah.
And one way, to finally make the choice to like take action rather than do what she has been unfortunately telling Rhaenyra to do this whole time, which is like, oh, be cautious, don't jump into anything, like and unfortunately for her it doesn't work out properly, but I think there's a part of her, and you see it when because there's these little moments, there's two moments where her dragon looks at her. One of them's when she says to turn around to go back, and the other one's right before they get killed. But she does that damage, and that's why like the show does like such a good job. You had like Daemon talking to her beforehand that was like, with our two dragons we can probably take out Vhagar, and like I think this fight shows that probably would have happened. Meleys is like a pretty big experienced dragon, and then Daemon and Rhaenys are both experienced dragon riders, and like having those two coming at this one massive dragon at the same time, it probably would have been enough damage, even if the two of them didn't make it out of that, to take out like their biggest threat.
That is a really good still, too.
Yeah. This is really good. The part where they start kind of like falling from a distance right here.
The fact that this
really
show
good.
costs the same as the Acolyte, yeah, technically this season was more expensive than the Acolyte, but if you take in like screen time, these episodes are hours long.
It's really good.
And the Acolyte is like 20-minute episodes. Probably
yeah, it's crazy,
to the
right?
same price. Like,
and
the
it's
fact that this looks so good and the Acolyte looks so bad it's just
it's insane, dude.
It's
like,
a literal crime. It has to be money laundering.
Have you watched any of the docuseries, like the behind the scenes stuff that they've done?
I kind of want to save myself.
Okay,
I haven't. The house the dragons built. Is that it?
At this point, like you could probably because there's two. They're doing it for each season. And I haven't.
So it's all season 1 stuff.
It's all season 1, and then they started doing season 2 along with season 2. That first, if you go and watch that first episode, they talk a lot about the throne room at King's Landing and all of the stuff and all of the detail for that, and then Balerion's head down in the they're like the area where they keep his skull. And just like the attention to detail and like the way that everyone is talking about the show, you're just like, these people are on another level compared to most other stuff around them. They are working on a completely different level. Disney doesn't have a chance to get anywhere near what they're doing.
Compared to
it's pretty incredible.
Building sets in New Zealand and then abandoning them and
yeah, and it's
like
sorry, what were you saying?
Rings of Power.
Oh yeah, well it's crazy. So that set from season 1 where Daemon and his wife leave to go to I think it's across the sea. The area is slipping my mind, but
it's not here in Hall. It's not
Volantis.
Pentos.
Thank you. That castle that they're in is a real place, and they actually renovated the inside of it. It's in Spain, I think, and the people were so happy with what they did. They were like, "Please just leave it this way." Because it was like an old abandoned castle, and so like now they have, they basically came in.
Now it's cool.
Yeah, and did all of this stuff or whatever. So it's stuff like that's always really cool. All right, so let's finish this out because it's pretty much over at this point. Again, we get the battle damage of Vhagar hitting the ground and like all of these people just getting rushed and like.
Oh, that shot!
Oh yeah, it's so good.
They're running and he's just trying to like get back up in the air, just crushing people left and right.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
And again, you realize like, oh, this is that shot, right? Like, I think they both at this point know it's over. Like one way or another. Like they've been completely mentally,
look at her eyes.
Mentally beat.
Look at her eyes.
Yeah. And it's tragic, like it's one of the reasons that episode from season 1 is so annoying, because otherwise like Rhaenys is a pretty great character.
Right. And has a perfect character arc. Minus 30 seconds.
Yeah. So unfortunately they both meet their end. And they hold on this shot of Meleys dying right here. Like all the way to the eyes closing, and it's so brutal, dude.
More emotion than any character in the Acolyte.
I know.
This is the brutality that's just right. You know what I mean? And the where they need to hold on stuff.
Yep. Yeah. It's a really good decision to do that. It just like it's so sad.
Biting his head clean off.
And then again. I love the fact that the dragons, when they hit the ground, they blow up. It's just a nice. And again, this was after watching this a second time, and like his reaction to this whole thing, and like him kind of now sort of coming into his own, right? Like this is his second kill, and it's the first one that's like on purpose. Like he's starting to really like get it, like, come into his own as a dragon rider. It makes me kind of
threat.
Yep, it makes me excited to see where his character's headed. And that's mostly it. There's just this. Oh, this was the one shot I wanted to talk about when Chris and Cole gets up, and then we can close this out.
He walks right past a horse.
Yep.
That could get him where he needs to go faster.
But he's
that was the one part I was like, I guess like maybe he doesn't have the strength to get up on it.
Well, he's delirious, I think, at this point. Like he doesn't.
Yeah.
He's.
But I was like, man, if you need to get to the king, use this shot's great.
Yeah, and obviously, this is what I was talking.
Obviously, the flag and the stick should have been burned too,
and probably the armor. From Dragonfire.
But it was cool. It was cool.
Yeah, it's a really great dramatic moment. That again, it's like where you go, okay, I get it, but it's cool. Yeah, it definitely is earned for sure. Even like I love the detail, like the spine, there, whatever. They always do like a really good
even
job with this stuff.
In his delirium, it could even be excused of like maybe it wasn't that gruesome, but that's what he saw,
Yep. And then of course we get the final
shot.
this
use the
final
horse
moment. And like the question of what Aemon was doing here. Great. The ambiguity is perfect, and a nod to the books of like, hey, was he gonna kill him? We don't know. Yep.
That's up for you to decide.
So Aemon has he's definitely gone up in my books. We get just a little.
And
so Sunfire is still breathing, and I think. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, the fact that they specifically brought up the Valyrian scene earlier in this episode, and the fact that he was looking at the dagger, like,
yeah. There's definitely going to be something with that for sure.
And the fact that they did the voiceover of, "Hey, remember the story?"
Yep. But yeah, it's definitely gonna play a part for sure. And again, you're right. Him being very, very well versed in High Valyrian, you're right. I think something's definitely gonna happen. And it's all these little details that like Aemon has really shot up on my list of characters that I'm just like, all right. I think you're winning me over finally. Because I just wasn't sure.
Does some fun stuff.
I had this whole conversation with Joseph where I was like, bro, it feels like they. Like Aemon is like they're setting him up to be this like pretend version of Daemon, that like he just is cosplaying Daemon basically. And the show just until really this episode, that was like what it seemed like they were trying to do. And then like I keep hearing from people, oh, he's so cool, and I'm like, guys, what are we talking about here? Because like the show specifically hasn't made the case for that yet. He's
a foil for Daemon.
Yeah.
But he's different.
So, and this, we can really just right here because this is going to be like a big part of the next episode with the outcome for Aegon Sunfire and the fallout from this fight.
Yeah, what do you think?
I'm curious. Like I wonder if because they do everything intentionally, right? So like Sunfire still breathing. Who knows? Like obviously very injured, fell out of the sky. And then we know that Aegon, because of the preview for the next week, he's still alive to some degree. So it's going to be really interesting to see, basically moving forward, what happens in the way that the politics in King's Landing changes now that he's basically out of the picture. But yeah. Joseph,
is this your favorite episode of this show?
Of this season. I still think episode 8 is still my favorite from last season.
Oh yeah.
Which one?
I gotta watch season 1 again.
Yeah, you do. That's the episode that Viserys dies. So it's like his final.
Yes.
He has his like
Such
final.
a good one.
Yeah.
Is that the one where with the crown where Daemon picks it up for him?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Love that episode.
Yeah.
And this, I mean, as far as like a more spectacle heavy, like this is definitely up there. Like this is a this is the action episode. Yep, it's so solid. And I'm really excited to see what they do for the rest of the show, because I can't imagine they're just going to do 4 more episodes of people sitting around talking. I think there's got to. It's not.
Stuff happens.
Exactly. Like you're not. I don't think it's because episode 1, 2, and 3 were that like final push to this episode. So I'm really curious how 5, 6, 7, and 8 add to episode 4, and then what that builds up for, and like the different things that are gonna happen through that. Because
my guess is episode 5 is probably gonna be slow again.
Sure, which is fine.
Because you're gonna get aftermath and a whole bunch of consequences.
Yep.
But I think you're gonna see some cool stuff in 6, 7, and 8.
Yeah,
So
I think
ready.
so too. I don't.
Really.
What were you saying?
It's so hard to tell if they have 4 seasons. I don't even know where they're going to end the story, right? Because the last couple hours of the book aren't very exciting. They're interesting, right? So I don't know where season 4 ends.
Yeah.
So I really don't know where season 2 ends. I think I know what it should be. If I was writing it, I think I know where I'd end it. But I could be way wrong.
Joseph, so do you feel better about this episode now? Where are you at now?
I do feel better about this episode.
Okay.
I do feel better about it.
To be honest, man, like I was like borderline today about to watch 1, 2, 3, and 4 again and have like timestamps for you to be like, well, in episode 2 at 25, whatever, this character specifically mentions,
Did you not initially like this one?
I wouldn't say I didn't like it. I would just say it was on par with the previous episodes for me, and
that's
I still
crazy,
feel that
though.
way. That's on par.
That's so crazy.
That's insane.
That's
insane.
crazy, Joseph.
I think it's easily the second best episode of the show.
The second best episode? Oh,
yeah,
man.
yeah. I agree.
Maybe I just need to watch
agree.
it again.
I agree. Lord of the Tides, an episode, Viserys' last moments are just too heartbreaking and just fantastic acting with Matt Smith and the wordless scene where he just walks into the throne room, picks up the crown and helps his brother to the throne it's probably the best thing I've ever seen on television.
I'll say this: I think it's the best episode of this season so far.
Yeah,
fair.
I would say I'd have to go back and watch 1. It's better than 2 and 3. I'd have to go back and watch episode 1, but I want to say this one is probably for me the best episode so far.
Keep an open mind. Keep an open mind.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe we might get you there.
I loved it. I thoroughly loved this episode.
Yeah, me too.
I was so impressed with the dragon fight choreography. Like, how do you even go about storyboarding something like that? They did a fantastic job.
They did a great job of mimicking like birds when they fight, specifically eagles.
Yeah.
Because that's how they use their talons and stuff when they fight.
But it has to be different too, right?
Yeah.
So you have to study eagles fighting, and you have to study like probably World War I dog fighting too, and like it's
very interesting, and I definitely enjoyed the battle sequences in this and the detail to it. This is definitely, I'd probably say it's safe to say, my favorite episode of the season 2 so far, but it's not like how episode 8 was last year for me. It's not like this is my favorite episode, like, oh my gosh, amazing. Like, it's good.
There was so
but
much,
I wasn't blown away.
There was so much love and attention given to Viserys as a character and like what they were trying to do with his character. I mean, like they, not to mention that they spent eight episodes building him up to those final moments.
Yep.
So yeah, the character work with that is just it's so much above. Man, probably
we got a freaking battle.
I know, true. Probably above just about.
I was
any
getting
of the
tired of the
writing.
slow barn.
Yeah, but it was I mean, like I think looking back on it, like if you go back and you watch 1, 2, and 3, 2, 4, I think it was worth it. I think that they handled that build up very, very well, and like they probably even knew that they were pushing it with episode 3, but they were like, nah. We're this is how we're gonna do it, and to be honest, man, I kind of appreciate that. Like that they very much seem to have the plan and they enacted it and like they stuck to it. Like they weren't gonna be like, yeah, maybe we need to push episode 4 up 1. Like people are, were we gonna lose people?
It's so impressive to me how they've filled in the gaps, right? Because you just have plot points from the book, and so yeah, I know where the plot is going, but I've just been surprised at every turn of how they're filling in the mortar.
Yeah.
And
that's cool.
and yeah, so yeah, I've been looking forward to Rook's Rest because it's going to be a cool fight scene, but it's not just a fight scene, it's character growth at the same time, right? There's a reason behind these events for these specific characters that was not existent in the books.
Yep.
And it's done really well.
Yep. Well, on that note, we'll end it right there. Technically Mexican, thank you for coming. To be honest, if you want to come back at the last episode and want to talk about the season as a whole, we'd love to have you back, man.
Yes, we would.
Plan on it.
It's always
should be in town.
We'll
I've got
even
some things planned
for sure. I got to figure out when that last episode is because I'm going to the beach for a week. I think I'm gonna be gone on episode 7, so we should end up being all right to do that. And if not, we'll just hold off and we'll talk about it when I get back.
Let's do it.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you both, and we'll
no problem.
We'll close it out there. Thank you for everybody who showed up to the stream tonight. Sorry we didn't really pay too much attention to the troll room tonight. It's tough when you actually like what you're talking about. You want to just talk about the whole thing. Until next week, y'all. Take it easy.
Bye.
See ya.